Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm gonna be talking about some of the mistakes I've made in my lock journey. So I've had my locks for like a year and a half now. I got them in June of 2020 and I'm honestly so in love with my journey. I feel like I love my locks more each and every day, even on those days where I'm having a bad hair day. And as y'all can see, I'm trying something new with my locks, trying to do a little more. But yeah, I just feel like I like the lock styles that people have in their heads, but with me, it's like whenever I do anything to my hair, aside from having it down, it just hurts now. I feel like I've gotten so tender-headed since I got my locks. Has anyone else experienced that? But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the video. So one of the first mistakes I would say I made was not doing enough research beforehand. I feel like I put off getting my locks for so long, and during that time I could have been doing research, but I did a little bit, but not enough. Because I feel like I've constantly learned new things about my locks and what works for me. One thing I wish I had done before getting my locks was doing some research on the different types of parting, retwist methods, lock sizes and all that, because I honestly just went in and told my cousin just to put some in my head. I really didn't have an idea on how many I wanted or whatnot, but luckily I really do like how many locks I have. I love how they're turning out. It's fine. One thing I wish I had said though when I was getting them put in was to make the ones in the back a little bit thicker, because the hair around my edges, especially in the back, is a lot thinner than the other areas of my head, but that's okay, we working with it. And then another lock mistake I definitely made, and I even made a video about this, was combining my locks too soon. So kind of going back off of the whole idea that the back of my hair is thinner than the rest of my hair, I combined 2 locks in the back of my head, and I totally regret combining those locks. And that's gonna lead to mistake number 3. But anyway, I combined 2 locks. They're like right here in the center of the back of my head. And I combined some other locks as well, but really didn't have any issues with those. But with those 2 locks, y'all know I made this video about me cutting my locks. I combined those locks and I definitely shouldn't have. I combined them because they were just so thin compared to the other locks in the back of my head. And I was just like, they're so thin, I feel like they're gonna break off. But I should have given them more time to just do what they were gonna do, because what I've noticed is that some of my locks that I think are thinning, they eventually get thicker, and that probably would have been the case with both of those locks if I had left them alone. But I combined them, and terrible choice, because eventually, for some reason, I don't know if it's because of how I combined it or how I retwisted it or whatever, it was causing a lot of tension in that area. So I was picking at that lock, that combined lock anyway, and I eventually cut it off, which is my mistake number 3. If I could go back in time and give younger me some advice, would be to just give your lock some time to thicken up. I probably wouldn't combine anything if I were you until I'm at least a year along in my journey. And I think I was at least a year along in my journey when I did that. But yeah, I'm just giving y'all a year for a benchmark. But give your time locks to really just grow into who they are, because when I cut those locks off and examined the 2 individual locks that could have been, they had thickened up and they would have been great size locks. And now the back row of my hair is just all messed up and different lengths because I was messing around with stuff. But that's the good thing about hair. It's gonna eventually grow back anyway, and we shouldn't take our hair that seriously anyway. You know, it's just hair at the end of the day. Because I honestly have combined probably every lock in the back row of my head because they were so thin. Because I know the back row of my hair, I kind of knew it was going to be thin anyway, because that hair back there is just a lot finer compared to the rest of my head. So it's not anything that I didn't expect anyway. But yeah, definitely if you're thinking about combining your locks, give it time before you really decide to combine, because it might be like me, they might thicken up eventually. But that was the only bad experience that I've had with the lock that I combined, because the other ones, they're doing just fine. Like, they haven't weakened up at all. And honestly, I can kind of see how the ones I've combined are different than the others. Just a little bit. It's like the texture is a little different, because I guess like the locks haven't fully combined yet. So there's probably some work I could do with my crochet needle to kind of make them look more like my other locks, but I'm not too worried about it. I feel like it's gonna grow how it's gonna grow, and I'm gonna be okay with it. Okay, And then another mistake I made early on was going to bed with wet hair. I watched so many videos these past months talking about the dangers of going to bed with a wet hair. I honestly didn't think about it when it comes to hair because like mold, it can easily grow in your hair, especially when you have locks. And if you're going to bed with a wet head, putting a bonnet over it, and just going to sleep and being like that for hours, mold and other bacteria can grow. And I was fortunate enough to not have had a bad experience with it because I've seen some videos, people talking about their hair stinks and whatnot. Because I definitely used to go to bed with a wet head, but it wasn't like, I don't think I've ever went to bed, maybe like once or twice, with like a soaking wet head. Because I used to do my moisture routine at night and then throw my bonnet on and just go about my business. But I don't do that no more because once you know better, you do better. And then another mistake that I made, I'm gonna call this a mistake, but it wasn't necessarily a mistake though, was wearing wigs too long into my lock journey. That whole first 6 months, I was wearing wigs whenever I went out because I didn't like the way my hair was looking. It was dirty sometimes, and it wasn't me. My hair really had to grow on me. Now looking back on some of the old pictures from the first 6 months of my lock journey, my hair really did not look that bad. I should have just rocked it the way it was, washed it, because I was also afraid to wash my hair unless I was getting a retwist too, because I was initially told that I shouldn't wash my hair the first year. But I'm glad I eventually did wash my hair because I would not have made it a year without washing my hair, because the way my hair is set up and the scalp is set up, dandruff, I mean, it's affected me my whole life, so I shouldn't have expected anything different once I got my locks. So that's a whole nother thing. My locks really started flourishing a lot more once I just freed them from my wigs. Like, I'm not saying anything is wrong with wearing wigs because it's always nice to switch your hair up every now and then, but that's definitely one of my regrets though, because I feel like I missed out on so much growth physically and mentally that I could have experienced sooner in my lock journey had I just been bold enough to wear my hair out the way it was. But you live and you learn. But I haven't worn a wig over my head since last December, so that was like a year ago once I finally ditched my wigs. And then another thing, I'm not gonna say this is a mistake, but this is something to think about in your lock journey. I initially used to wear a bonnet all the time, and when I wake up in the morning, it's like my locks would be sticking up all over the place. But once I ditched the bonnet and started wearing a scarf, I would wake up feeling so much more confident with my hair, because it just seemed like whenever I started wearing the scarf, my hair just did exactly what I wanted it to, a little bit more, because I feel like the scarf, the way it's set up, the way you can tie it around your head, it just allows your locks to kind of lay more flat. But with the bonnet, it's like the locks, they can just move around just any kind of way whenever you sleeping or whatnot. But once I ditched the bonnet, it's like I don't really have those issues anymore about my locks sticking up or anything. But that's also because my locks are mature for sure. There's nothing wrong with wearing a bonnet. I'm not gonna say that, but I did notice some different things once I started wearing my scarf. So if you are a bonnet wearer, try switching to a scarf for a little bit and see which one you like better. And this next mistake, y'all, this is something I wish I would have known more about even before I got my locks. Because as I mentioned earlier, I've had issues with dandruff for years, for as long as I can remember really. And now that I have my locks, I've learned so much more about hair and whatnot. So whenever I was having issues with dandruff, if I wasn't washing my hair, I was just putting oil and grease on my scalp thinking, oh, my scalp is dry, that's why I have dandruff. But if your scalp is oily and you have dandruff, applying more oil is just probably going to exacerbate the issue. Whenever you're suffering from a dry scalp and you putting oil on top of that, you're basically just sealing in all that dryness. So whenever you have the dry scalp, the thing to do is you gotta moisturize your scalp with some water. So I use rose water, sometimes I use regular water, just depends on whatever I feel like using. And then seal it in with the oil. Like, that's the thing. And I didn't know that until I joined these lock groups on Facebook. And I just think like, dang, I could have saved myself so much heartache throughout the years, even before my lock journey, if I would have known that. Because I always thought, if I have a dandruff issue, if my dandruff is real bad one day, put some oil or grease on it, it's gonna make it better. And it never did. And I probably should have connected the dots sooner, but I was young, I didn't know no better. But now I know better. And honestly, these past few months, I don't use a lot of oil in my hair in general, because with dermatitis, eczema, whatever you want to call it, that oil really does make the issue worse. Because with my scalp issues, at the root of it is because my scalp is so oily as it is. So I really don't need to put all that excess oil in it anyway. So I probably put oil in my hair now, maybe like 2 times a week, 3 max. And honestly, since I started doing that, my scalp does not itch as much. I don't have as much dandruff, and it's so much better, y'all. Cause right now I haven't washed my hair in almost 2 weeks now. And usually I would have to wash my hair within a week or sometimes less because my dandruff would be so bad because I was putting a lot of oil in my hair. But now I've learned, it's like I've been so enlightened, and I wish I would have known this sooner. And I know people, like, I'm not gonna say don't use oil at all, because I've seen people on Twitter especially say that you should ditch oil altogether. But I do see some benefits in using different oils. But you really just gotta figure out what works for your hair and your hair type. And then this last thing I want to mention too, it's not really a mistake, but one thing I've noticed is that since I follow so many people who have vlogs on Instagram and YouTube, sometimes I try to take their advice as far as product recommendations and apply them to my own lock routine. But one thing I've learned is that what works for their hair might not work for my hair, because sometimes I see like my favorite YouTubers trying products, I'm like, oh, I want to try that. And then once I try, it'll irritate my scalp, or just really not work the way I expect it to. And I'll try to force that product on myself. And I shouldn't be doing that, because your hair is going to tell you what it needs. And if you don't need all those extra products in your hair, don't use them. Honestly, I feel like the minimal approach to when it comes to your lock routine might be best. So don't feel like you have to buy so many different products, all these thick creams and stuff that's probably not even good for your locks, and use them just because you see somebody else use them. Find a unique routine that works for you and just do you. Let your locks do their thing, because it's a journey. Your hair is an extension of you, and you want it to look its best. So I hope me talking about this helps you in your lock journey. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down below. And if you like content like this, also feel free to tell me, because I can make more content like this, because this channel is as much y'all's as it is mine. And I enjoy making videos anyway, so if y'all want to see more lock videos, definitely let me know and give me topics to talk about. So I hope you enjoyed this Vlogmas video, and go back and check out the rest of the Vlogmas 2021 videos, and I will see y'all back here tomorrow. Bye. I also didn't realize my shirt was still wet. It's wet because I was doing my skincare routine before I started doing this video. So just in case any of y'all was wondering why my shirt was wet. Okay, I'm gone for real now. Bye.